essentially anti-competitive and was used as an instrument. But they have actually been one of the most successful countries also, but they also have the biggest failures. So maybe you see two things. So in new electric vehicles, every region has its own factory and type of electric vehicle. And what you get is this sort of internal competition and not allowing the best solution to rise to the top. So every country you look at, you can find lessons. But broadly speaking, I think the principles apply everywhere, but you have to tailor your thinking for the policy to your own particular circumstances. So I'll stop there.
Before you go, Omar, you come here, not from there this time. No, you come here. Before you go, your experience in policy and getting actually some funds justified in time for very big things which have got many spin-offs. Can you give one of the examples? Because you're not a science advisor, Omar, but you have another trick. I don't know what you have. But you're very well known, and probably just, well, I don't know where you speak, but could also just validate that. You're very well known that you have a particular way of picking up the right emergent development. The minister listens to you, the Secretary of Treasury or whatever listens to you, and you get the things done. How do you do that? Do you also help the science advisor, or how? Or do you go straight?
Well,
how do you go about it?
Nowadays, because I'm a vice president of my university, I am my task is to show the opportunities that are coming from our university and our region. I mean, if in different capacities I give neutral advice when I'm on an advisory committee. But I guess are you thinking about graphene? Yes, I was wondering if that was the real question. So how did we? Why did the reason it came there is because that's where the science is. The two Nobel Prize winners drive. Well, some of it has gone to Cambridge, and there are good people there as well. But the core of the science, the absolute dominance, if you look at citations and everything else, is with our graphene team. And it's not only the two Nobel Prize winners there, very many people around them, about 100 researchers now in graphene, which is the largest academic cluster in this topic. But it would still only have attracted regular science funding, doing well in grants and so on. And we sat down, a couple of us, and thought, this is not going to capture the benefits for the country. We're just going to do a lot of good science, and the benefits will all be flowing in Korea or Japan or US or somewhere else. So how can we go from this science base to create an innovation ecosystem? How do we sort of raise the levels? Well, what do you need? I mean, first of all, you need to move kind of up the levels towards innovation. And for this, we would need a clear strategy for working with business, both in attracting in large business partners and also in commercialization, developing intellectual property and helping startups. To do that, we would also need to be training a lot of people, because the main thing that attracts investment to an area is, in fact, it's the labour market. Whatever you hear about Silicon Valley, the only thing to remember about it is that it rests on its labour market. There are so many highly specialised trained people there that you can start your business. You know that if your business fails, you can get another job. So therefore, it's the safe place to be if you're innovating in that area. So how do you move from just what is just science in a lab towards creating a labour market? So we sketched out some elements of this ecosystem, and then our research funding system can't cope with big bets. It's just not designed to do that. It's designed to give out grants of £500,000, £1 million at a time, at best, with some occasional capital injections. So we had to go beyond it. So we went straight to the centre of government. We went to the science minister and the chancellor of the exchequer, the finance minister, And we made the case that the country would seriously miss out, and we have a lot of backstories of other technologies we missed out on, LEDs and so on, unless we made critical investments now. Some other factors were helping us. The Conservative Party was having its annual conference in Manchester and wanted something nice to announce. It was at the height of austerity measures. They wanted to be seen that they were not only trying to control the deficit, but also investing in the future of the country. So we hit all of these buttons, and we were given, I mean, it was announced as 50 million, it was actually 38 million, towards setting up the National Graphene Institute. We've since managed to double that investment by attracting European and money from business. And we've recently, Ivan Buckley probably told you, we've a Chinese partner has now come to join us to set up the European manufacturing operation, as well as a research partnership. And to my knowledge, they're the leading manufacturer of graphene. I mean, while everyone else is producing small flakes, they can produce it like cling film. So
Wow.
Excellent.
And the same with the high performance computer, right?
Strangely enough, the national funding model has now moved in that direction. We've had a number of initiatives which allow you to apply for big capital partnerships, but only if you can demonstrate business interest. So the main scheme, you had to show that you had double the money from business that government were giving you, and then the minimum government would give you was 10 million, so then you get very big projects. Yeah, so.
Right. Okay, well, Omar, now, did you go to the science advisor at any point of time?
Indirectly, the president, my boss, Dame Nancy Rothwell, is herself the chair of the Council for Science and Technology, which is the main science advisory committee. So she has the ability to talk to the chief scientist very regularly. Yeah.
So you engage with him?
Yeah.
But here we are. Fine. Okay. Thank you. We'll come back to those. Omar, I mean, you have 22 years of experience, not only in Malta, but
I can do it
listening
from
to
here.
everybody. Huh?
You can see me there, I can do it from here.
Okay, fine.
Well, I'm not an expert on innovation. If anything, I am a student of innovation. And the reason I wanted to know about innovation was because if you take the definition of the World Economic Forum on how nations succeed, it is about a country progressing from a factor-driven economy to efficiency-driven economy to innovation economy. And to succeed, that's what they say you need to do. Malaysia is in between efficiency and innovation-driven economy. So in order for us to move, we need to see what innovation is. And when I started to look at what innovation means, I got terribly confused. Because there are so many concepts and so many areas of innovation. I saw in a program that Stephen was supposed to dismantle the myth regarding innovation. He didn't do that. He strengthened what I understood about innovation. So let me read what I said in my book about innovation after trying to learn what it is. There are so many definitions, and I said here, in addition to the various definitions, innovation is also divided into technological or product innovation and soft innovation. The latter is again classified into process innovation and strategy innovation, which include aesthetical innovation and innovation in the creative industries. This is from books I was reading. The soft innovation is also referred to as hidden innovation. Innovation can be open or closed, systems or systematic, incremental, substantial, breakthrough, or even radical. So if you try to define that, you really get confused, yeah? It can occur in governance, in geopolitics, in socio-economic issues, and in strategies and alliances. There is also the concept of mass innovation, inclusive innovation, grassroots innovation, meaning that innovation is not the preserve of an elite group, but is everyone's business. It is about finding ways of doing what we are doing daily better, quicker, more efficiently, and more profitably. That's the whole job. But if you talk about innovation economy, it is about creating wealth through innovation, and it mainly refers to, if I'm not mistaken, to technological innovation. Now, for technological innovation, normally it started as an invention. An invention can come from the systematic research and development that you do in the laboratories. But invention can also come from tinkering on your kitchen table or in your garage or wherever it is. This is what the ordinary inventors do when they do not have the big system for research and all that. So first starting point is invention, which can come from research, systematic research, or from what I call tinkering. But to move this invention to what you can call innovation, yesterday or day before we said it has to be in the marketplace, it has to be useful for the consumer, and it has to be profitable for the company that makes it. So that makes it very, very difficult to achieve. And so you cannot just use innovation freely without thinking about it. If you take that concept, invention to innovation in the marketplace, there are a whole series of things that you need to do. In many cases, people talk about innovation when it is still, when it hasn't gone to the marketplace yet. So I have introduced the term what I call pre-innovation. When you have an invention and you have gone through various processes, when it is ready for commercialization, I call that pre-innovation. And then when it is in the marketplace already being utilized and all that, that's innovation. And I thought it is very important in policy, because you need different set of an enabling environment to create invention, and you need various processes to help it to the pre-innovation stage, and then a different set of enabling environment again to put it to innovation. So I thought for policy making that is important. For government to support innovation is also important, because you need different sets of skills, different sets of enabling facilities between invention, pre-innovation, and innovation. I have a problem in my country, because from time to time the Prime Minister is asked to announce that I have now 150 innovations. Come and bid for it. What he was saying is that I have 150 innovations. Come and bid for it and turn it into an innovation. But I haven't had time to whisper to his ears. Other people are whispering that to him, and he's using the word innovation wrongly to me. But don't tell him that. So I thought for policy making, and particularly for those people who are, or government who wants to migrate to the innovation economy, I think we need to understand this a little bit better. But to make the technological innovation successful and be an innovation in the marketplace, then you need all the soft innovation that we talked about earlier. You need the business model. You need all various kind of a thing to make it happen. So soft innovation and technological innovation has to come together. Otherwise, it will not be successful. It will not be a real innovation in the marketplace. That's my contribution. That's what I learned as a student of innovation that may be helpful to you. Thank you.
Well, I mean, if probably now we don't have enough stimulus about how to kind of think fast or slow about innovation, different types of innovation, from the point of view of people experience, people who reflect it on, cheat, I don't know what else we can put. There is a very blurred distinction between different types of innovation, that's one thing for sure. But as far as possible, we need to kind of systematically think of all these things existing at the same time. So could Buso give an example of innovation? It doesn't matter which one. Could any of us think about a quick think tank in the past of an innovation? Doesn't matter which. It could be one which. Buso, you'll follow.
Thank you.
Chris will follow. George. Because it could be innovations, as you see what it means. It's rearranging furniture type. That means pre-innovation, and then
We are queuing up in front of tenders in a bank. And then you happen to be in a tender where the customer before you had a lot of things to do, and you only had to cash in a check. While the other lines that you could have followed moved on quickly. An innovative solution is that everybody is along the same line, and then you go to any of the counters which is free. So the arrangement whereby customers in a bank, instead of lining up for each teller, you line up on the same line, and then you go to whichever box is free. That was an innovative solution.
Let's see if that's an innovation.
It was innovative.
Stephen, well, let's see. Is that an innovation?
Well, due to the definition, it was a new solution that was delivered in the reality in the market. Yes, that I would say that was innovation. Yeah.
Yes, certainly. I suppose it's an organisational innovation if we want to put it in a taxonomy. Yeah.
Omar? Is that the kind of innovation that Prime Minister is calling 150 or something?
No, he was talking about technological innovation coming from research from the university.
But this is actually the
where
point.
I feel a little
It's good
bit.
that George came with that, because there is this idea that there are existing technologies to which solutions are being found, like this one. And there are novel technologies which are related to the demand or something else. So probably there is something to do with.
In George's example.
No, your example.
Yes.
Give another example.
How about jumping the line? Is that innovation?
You don't get
You're going to take another peek.
I think just to add to what has been said,
Another negotiation.
I think in my judgment and my experience of working
At least there's no queue down there.
with Innovation Council in India, I think it's a very clear recognition that our country needs equally important organizational innovation. Most of the delivery system in healthcare, in education, in governance, we are not able to deliver because we have not concentrated, given enough attention to organizational innovation. Just one example. The Narayan Hridayalaya healthcare system. Would you believe in 10 rupees per month insurance, health insurance to lakhs of poor people? That covers up to open heart surgery.
10 rupees?
10 rupees per month. It's simple organizational innovation. Now, based on what the Planning Commission, the National and Innovation Commission desired, a simple trick. We simply announced an award to be given by the President of India. And we got hundreds of such examples, local level, where organizational innovations have been done, NGOs, government departments, industry, any number. So what I'm saying is that whatever has been placed before us, especially from the point of view of the government, you may like to consider both type of innovations as equally important. And for quick solutions, without what Luke was saying, it requires time, you have to legislate and so on and so forth. At least the delivery innovations, which means slight changes in the organization mindset, probably is a very important starting point. So that's what I wanted to say.
Well, the one I can offer is mapping the human genome, which was essentially an enormous breakthrough, a scientific breakthrough. And there was not very much money for it in the beginning, but there were people in the universities working on it, both here and in the States and elsewhere. And Mrs. Thatcher was in power at the time, and she didn't wish to know, and therefore neither did any of her departments. She was suspicious that it would be another Concorde. And Concorde was notorious for having the costs had escalated to such an extent that she didn't want to see anything similar. Well, of course, the mapping of human genome was nothing like producing an aeroplane. And we managed, I was in the Cabinet Office at the time, we managed to overcome her resistance by making it possible for one of the leading researchers to have an audience with her. Now that was quite early in the innovation cycle because it was actually a scientific exercise at that time, and not very many people could really understand what the opportunities would be further down the line for the economic and commercial development. So it has to be recognized, I think, that some of these changes which allow for radical transformation to take place are not always easy to identify. I mean, you managed to identify graphene, but actually quite far along the road of the scientific work, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of people have been working on that.
When you attracted the atom, you were quite much further than on the map.
But if I could just make one other point, and that is that in policy for economic development for a country, I think a lot of the innovation needs to be thought of as sort of evolutionary innovation. That is, building step by step on what already exists, rather than this sort of idea that innovation is about moving upwards or forwards. It's actually very often moving sideways and making use of the opportunities and the technology that already exists. And I think this evolutionary part is often neglected and really needs to be thought through and is of most use to you when you've still got to build up your economy. Thank you.
He wants to go out, but you want to go out.
Mihaela,
Really,
the original gatekeeper.
Mihaela,
An example.
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, maybe Professor would like to answer the question as well. My question is, to what extent does or can technological innovation work in developing countries? It's true that we've seen some innovation. I think some of us mentioned yesterday that we've seen M-Pesa work, payment by mobile system. That's perhaps a low-level type of innovation where it works and it works effectively. But to what extent can technological innovation work in developing countries? It's interesting what Catherine said, of course. Developing innovation on a building block approach. That's the question on that.
I think Sami, you have something to say on this one, or you want to?
To do it so that I may be allowed to. this is to do with the organization of a smart partnership dialogue. We should have a recurrent program of collaborative couples just before the beginning of each dialogue. Well, at the beginning in the 01. Because we normally arrange this in huge tent outside. I think in the rainy season, you already raise the carpets out. In the readiness to start the dialogue in the morning. Lo and behold, when you get up in the morning, the carpets are soaking wet. So, this happened in Dar es Salaam last year. And the two presidents had different interpretations of the problem. I'll start with the region. President Kikwete came in and looked at these carpets and said, change them all. And so his staff were really puzzling around to get the new carpets, lay them on in time. And at Mignonius was a different solution. It was a preventative solution. And the general here, he'll tell you what we did. Because this was a practice that they used to use when they were living under rudimentary conditions in the bush fighting in a regime of Amin, because it used to rain everywhere in the forest. And all you do is just you create trenches so that it's a temporary drainage to make sure there is an embankment, collection of stormwater does not enter the tent. And we try to advise the same advice for free.
Is there innovation?
Dar es Salaam, but is a comfort zone. That lives in the bush. Think innovatively. You live with nature, you think quickly and fast. To get stick of your mind. So sometimes I had somebody say in the morning, the challenge is
I was referring to technology.
and it helps you think quickly of solutions. So this solution which they use in the bush, they use to make sure that this is then we know there was actually a soaking swamp position, and the drainages were done, and then the vision of the president who was also a patron. And the captain escaped to the everywhere was threatening inside.
Okay, Barry, can you go back?
Yeah, I'll come back to the Barry's question. How can innovation hub, technological innovation hub? Precisely, I want to go back to what I said yesterday on the first day. If you look at the actually leveraging technology is actually trying to find innovation to increase or enhance, improve economic activities. Simple thing. In agriculture, for example, you want to increase a yield of your certain crop. You need new technology, which is new innovation, to make that. So this is an example of innovation that is demand-driven. The usual one is innovation which is technology-driven. The research institute in the universities do whatever and then try to put that to the marketplace. That is a push rather than the pull. But if you look at the requirement of your particular country or particular economic sector or particular company, how to improve, that is the pull one. Surely it can apply. Take the case of rubber in Malaysia. When we brought the rubber from Brazil and plant them, the productivity was very, very low. But rubber now, the new rubber tree can produce 50 times more than the original one. And that is through research, through new discovery, through innovation. So you have to find it to help the economy. So it is part of the demand pool. What I want to add also is that some kind of innovation need not be commercialized. Something that you develop and you use it usefully, that's an innovation. This is where grassroots innovation comes in. This is about doing whatever you are doing every day better, quicker, less material, less energy, or whatever the case may be. That is not being commercialized. And I want to congratulate all of you for being innovative. Smart partnership is an innovation. smart partnership is a social innovation or relationship innovation, because we have gone beyond strategic alliance. Strategic alliance, you come together when you need each other strategically. But smart partnership goes beyond that. It is not just coming together because it's strategic at that particular time. We evolve our needs together. So I have always said that people always talk about strategic alliance. That's a marriage of convenience. We have innovated smart partnership, which is a marriage of love, continuing, evolving, common objective. So congratulations, all of you. You are all innovators, and we don't commercialize that.
Just Isidore and I, we want to announce an innovation just a minute ago. He came in and said, it's hot. Open the window. I looked there and I said, the windows are open. So what did I do when he went there? I opened the door. It's not a window, so just
improved
observation comes about. Stephen, immediate reaction. Stephen.
I have a comment as well. I mean, as we've heard that innovation has to work in the market, you could say that technological innovation for a developing country has by definition also to be developed locally, because that probably was one of the wrong ideas, that you could develop an innovation somewhere in the world and then just transport it to another country. And in order to do that, I mean, there is a lot of invention out there. So the first step would actually be bringing relevant inventions to your country. And the second thing, which we have not been talking so much about, is actually educating people at your place to be able to do that. And when we talk about education in a knowledge society, we always think about reading books and knowing things, which is important. But the other thing is actually educating people on how to build things, craftsmanship. That is really important, that has been forgotten. I mean, Switzerland has been doing a lot of mistakes in the past months and years when you look at the financial system. But one thing they did good is they strengthened the education system for young people to actually learn to build things, craftsmanship. And I think this is then the second step, that you need to educate people in front that actually can bring the invention to an innovation which fits to the local needs.
Okay. No, Mbuso is waiting, the cabinet secretary there in the private sector.
No, I wanted to respond to my colleague from Seychelles about what innovations we in the development world can do. I think we don't need to start innovations that already been done, just use them. And I'll give an example of Swaziland. We have now endorsed electronic cabinets, an electronic cabinet system, and other countries have been using for a long time. But we have now a new cabinet, and when they come in, they have to use that system. So yesterday, I tried to enter the cabinet session from London here, and for the first time, I was able to get in there. So I could see the cabinet papers, I could see the cabinet decisions, I could see everything from here.
Could they see you?
Yeah, so we use that.
Could they see you?
No, I was entering the system. It's not video.
No, okay.
It's a server inside the cabinet session to allow our ministers to keep track of what's happening, whatever they may be in the world. So we use that, in fact, to attract a high level of ministers into the new cabinet. Because the king is aware of it now. So if you're not computer literate, you can't be a cabinet minister. So we use that to drive the level of cabinet ministers that we. So the other thing that I wanted to comment on is the issue of rewarding failure. I think it's a good concept, because I'm from football. I used to play football in my youth. And one of the weaknesses of my coaches was they did not allow players to make mistakes. And because of that, they couldn't play football anymore. Because without a mistake, you can't play. The coaches, every time you had a mistake, they would chuck you out, they would give you so much trouble. So to me, it's a good idea. The only question is, how far do you reward failure? At what point you say, no, this is not good, I'm not going to reward failure. So I think that's a good thing. And also, I agree with them that until innovation is actually used in the ground, it's not innovation anymore. So I just wanted to comment on that, because like the DPM, every day I learn something new, and I really appreciate Mike.
I want to just modify this about innovation and failure. I do not think you want to reward failure, but you shouldn't stigmatize failure.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think in most of us, most of our country, if you fail, you've done, you finish. But that shouldn't be. So not rewarding failure, but don't stigmatize it.
But it's not rewarding failure, it's rewarding you for trying to achieve something. So I think it's wrong to call it rewarding failure.
Yes.
It's actually it's your intent to do something even if you are not successful.
But with respect, it's creating the incentive for those coming behind to know that it's okay to try, even if they're not sure they're going to succeed. Because I spent 18 years working for an industrial research institute. And because I didn't really have any research talent myself, I functioned in the administrative area, which eventually gave me something of an overview of all of the different laboratories where things were happening. And I was able to derive some principles or some observation, one of which is that you seldom end up inventing what you set out to invent. Most people who it's like putting your hand into a maze or beginning at the beginning of a forest and coming out at the end thinking that you're going in there for one thing, and when you come out with something else. And I'll give you an example of when that happened. The other thing I noticed is that people like us in this room who have had all the structures of technology, education, although we must have been born with the same kind of natural attributes for creativity as the average man in the street who hasn't had all of that. We are not the ones who invent new things, by and large. It's nearly always somebody who doesn't know that this is not supposed to work. Because we all know what is supposed to work and what is not, because of all these structures that we've been given. And some guy comes along and starts working on something that we think ought not to work, and something else happens, and he discovers something. Now, to answer your question about innovation in the developing country, Barry, the steel pan is something that came out of Trinidad and Tobago. And it was guys playing around with oil drums, because we were very early in the oil industry, and these drums were just lying there. And because there was an absence of musical instruments or money to buy, they started to play around with these. And that's how the steel drum came about. Another innovation that came out of, and this came out of my research institute, or the one I worked at, that's the coconut huska, kariri, coconut huska, because we always use a machete or a cutlass to open coconuts. And the dry ones, you pull apart the thing, and somebody said, one of the engineers said, we could build a machine to do this. They were like 5 or 6 iterations before they got it to work properly. But we eventually got it and got it patented in the US. In fact, it turned out that that patenting was we were advised was not the right thing to do. Because a UN expert came through like 3 or 4 years after we had patented it, and we discussed it with him, and he said, well, I think you should have tried to commercialize it before you patented it, because you put the information in the public domain and you think it's protected, but some firm with lots of money will come along and use it anyway. You will not have the money to go through legislation against them. And even if you do, it will take so long, they would have made back their money by the time you did. So he said, you shouldn't have done it, but that didn't matter. The other example I wanted to give about
passion fruit. Was it the passion fruit or the bottle?
the passion fruit.
No, because there was a lot of debate about the passion fruit. Remember?
The bottle.
Right. The bottle, actually, not the passion fruit. Zero.
Yes, well, we took passion fruit and we created a concentrate, which eventually we were able to put into a manufacturing operation, a pilot plant to start with, and run it together, because the technology for running and extracting the juice from the passion fruit could work for limes. We did a lime and passion fruit plant. But the other thing I want to talk about didn't happen in Trinidad, and it is something that sort of demonstrates that what you start out to get is not necessarily what you get. This is a very short tunnel, and that's the microwave. When Percy Spencer was working with radar and found that the good bar chocolate in his pocket had melted, he wasn't thinking of a microwave. But that's how the microwave came about. So I've stopped it.
No, we need to have people not necessarily coming from technology background. Chris, you still think about it. In the meantime, John from private sector. Do you have one? One example. You have so many.
There's so many. There's so many examples. Virtually in all fields.
Yes.
In all fields. The military, agriculture, irrigation systems. You know, there's so many. So I don't know. One example.
Pick one that you are particularly engaged in as cabinet secretary.
I'm more enthused by the organizational one that Dr. Ashok talked about, because we have to innovatively look at how we can organize systems to deliver. The issue that...
But do they deliver technology or do they services?
Well, it's applications of technology. I mean, in the ICT sector, I think quite a few of us are pushing e-government, e-procurement. That changes the complexion of things. If instead of somebody traveling from a rural area to physically look for registration of papers in town, which is maybe 300-400 kilometers, if they can just get onto the computer and be able to access the necessary information and actually submit an application, it makes a big difference. In fact, we have seen with some of the flagship projects that we have in e-government, we have targeted some high-profile departments like immigration, you know, for the visa applications. We've also even liquor licensing. You will be surprised if you go into say like a high-density suburb. There will be a lot of liquor stores in that locality. Perhaps only one will be licensed because it's being done manually, instead of somebody actually making sure that they're all connected and you're able to collect money by charge. And I'm sure that can apply to quite a few countries. And you can plug that hole and start to rake in revenue. You can imagine liquor stores, I mean, from the whole country. So you're talking of revenue losses that but once you intervene with ICTs in that regard, then you start not only to have more efficient delivery of service, but also to bring in revenue. So the applications are quite many, I would say.
But would you say, Chris, that in the last so many years, kind of few years, 5 or so, like Luke talked about, he caught the Conservative Party having the meeting in Manchester, and when they were announcing austerity, so in addition to that, they announced something else, graphene or support for graphene. Would you say that if the economic conditions are a bit more austere, that will also generate more innovative kind of...
Well,
I mean, the antibody is yes, but
Yeah,
examples of that, because it's most innovative, and probably Henry wants to say another.
Yeah, in fact, for us, the imposition of economic sanctions created a whole new ball game for us, because we then decided and saw that we had to survive on our own, as it were. You know, the full budget, the national budget is national, in other words, from national resources. For the past, I would say, I don't know, 15 years or so. And then you have to innovatively look at how you can leverage certain resources. I think the ethanol plant that I made reference to is one of the initiatives that we pursued to be able to produce fuel from sugarcane using Brazilian technology. Okay, so that fuel, I think over time, possibly in the next few years, we might get to a position where it may, most of the fuel that we'll be using will be from that blending of ethanol. I mean, we had been doing ethanol before during the sanctions on UDI, if you recall, in the 60s. There had already started to be some ethanol production. But more recently, this is now a much bigger project, much bigger. It's the biggest on the African continent right now. So that's a clear application of technology, and that plant is also generating power as well, which is then fed into the national grid. So that's
Okay. I'll pick up each and every now, because otherwise, so if anybody can think of, I'll start here, I'll move there, but we don't want to lose track of anybody who didn't speak. So I was thinking fast. John.
You want to get mine first?
Huh? No, John. Then mine.
Hundreds of ideas. First one is, lots of these things we're talking about as innovations are really just work study technique, better ways of operating. And the point about the queue, it is an innovation, but in fact, it's just somebody using his common sense or her common sense, jumping the queue, but in a different way. And those things operate everywhere. Wherever we've been in, wherever I've been in business, we've had to do those kind of things to be more efficient. People get into this doing things in triplicate and quadruplicate, and you look at it and say, but why? Once upon a time you needed it for this reason, something has developed, you could do it differently. Ethanol, as you say, they started in UDI. We were using ethanol in cars in Malawi in 88, 89 from Brazil. We were also using it in our liquor, so we mixed it and made whiskey and gin and those kind of things. It was very good. But I was using it at university when I was doing agriculture. We were stealing it from the laboratories and mixing it with Coke and getting very drunk. Worked well. The prof tried to catch us by putting phenol in it, because that gives you diarrhea. And my job was to test the alcohol before we put it in the drinks. That was in the 60s. So I'm sure they did it early. That's not innovation, that's just getting smart. But I don't really want to talk about Hydroform, but I will. Hydroform is a private company, I just want to make the point. Started in 88 in a garage in South Africa by a chap who thought that it might be a good idea to use the Mexican system of mud bricks, but do it better using cement. It took a lot of work. I came in 93, put money in 94, and we failed many times. And I could tell you, there were not recriminations, but there were serious regrets every time we failed, because it came straight out of my pocket. But we didn't give up, and the system works. It's actually a way of putting cement into soil or mud and making bricks using hydraulic pressure. And it works all over Africa, and in fact we've sold in South America and in the subcontinent, India. I think our furthest machines are in Australia and Indonesia and across in the US of A. And that went through all of the things that you've talked about today. Trial, error, testing, failing, regularly failing, embarrassment, litigation, theft of patent, trademark. Finding trademark is much more secure than patent, because somebody comes along and tweaks something. In fact, we stole somebody's patent last year. Vermeer, which is an American building company, decided to copy. They came up with another system. We looked at it, they got it wrong, we tweaked it, we've done a better job than them. So their patent was useless. We put it under our banner, and now it sells under our banner. Vermeer came to us last year and said, could we join forces with them, and we would be the name that they would sell under. We told them their machine was no longer necessary. So, innovation, technology, we build houses now. People all over Africa and India and some places in Europe build houses out of subsoil mixed with cement, compressed and turned into building blocks. That eliminates the need for having a plant out miles from anywhere. You can take a machine 50 miles, 100 miles into the bush and start making on day 1. You can be building on day 7, and people look at the thing and they say, I can have a real house and I'm an ordinary person. And I've had people in Karamojong up in Uganda would put the AK-47 down on a block and start making blocks and building houses, and instead of sleeping under bushes, instead of hiding under the bushes and worrying about the Lord's Revolutionary Army shooting them up, after 2 weeks they've got a wall that's bulletproof and they can sleep behind it, and they like it, for good reason. So that's innovation.
Yeah.
There are lots of aspects.
Henry, I will go quickly around because...
You know, I think we did enough examples. Why
No,
don't
no,
we
no,
move
no,
forward?
No, 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 no.
I would be keen to say something else on moving forward.
No problem, not now.
Okay.
We'll come 10 minutes, please.
I hope I'll be around.
No, no, no. What about you? Where are you going? Sandra, you have one example? What innovation involved or many times? That comes to your mind quickly? Sandra works in Russia.
I suppose from my personal experience, but this is, yes, everybody has gone through this, the innovation in technology, in office technology. When I started working, we used to dictate, and then we had electric typewriters, and then we moved on to the computer. When I first went to work at the European Commission, I went into an office where there was no computer. I'd come from a university where everybody was using a computer. And for a year, I couldn't really work properly because the only computer was in the secretary's office, and I had to go there when she went home at 6 o'clock to do my work. Now, when you go to work at the European Commission, the first thing that comes onto your desk is your computer. The telephone maybe 2 or 3 days later, but the first thing you have is the computer, and that has been a revolutionary way, we all know, the way everybody works within offices. We had an example of how at the government level it's been introduced in Seychelles. But that is something that we've all lived through.
Okay, Godfrey.
A
quick one.
Well, it will be very short actually. In my field, we innovate a lot.
What is your field?
Every day.
Diplomatic.
But we can't talk about it.
I just want to think about smart innovation, and that means that it is future orientated. You know, it's going to solve problems in the future as well.
Do you have an example?
Well, I can think of if and I think it must serve the common good. So I think, and I think of, let's talk. Well, John spoke of these houses. I thought of drones. You know, drones were invented for things, but now drones are invented again in the commercial environment. Make a huge difference to the common. And so I think so I think we should think and robots. I think we should think about smart things.
Okay, that's the future.
You can do them for surviving and
as a lawyer.
As a lawyer.
Oh, lawyer, as a judge. As a judge.
Couldn't judge the quality of that.
Never mind that.
Now you're really talking.
No, because there must be many.
The kind of innovation that we experience in the legal profession is new approaches to old problems. And I've been in the fortunate position, I've been a professor of comparative law as well, looking at different legal systems. For instance, the Anglo-American systems, which are English-based, as opposed to the European systems, the Romance language-based systems, and of course in South Africa you've got a nice mixed legal system. The amazing thing that you learn from these mixed legal systems and from other systems is that every system has its own approach to resolving problems. And I think it's not really an innovation in that sense, but it does really lead to creativity. It does lead to a different approach to dealing with problems. And that is really what my whole job is about. And what I probably will do for the rest of my life is to try and assist in resolving problems and issues and disputes in as novel a way as possible. Briefly, if you can do it shortly, in a short way, for instance, arbitration was regarded as better than litigation. Mediation, again, is better than arbitration, because arbitration is also time-consuming, it also costs money. So there are always these different approaches, and that's why I'm totally dedicated now to the whole mediation process, because I believe if I can assist parties to achieve an agreement, to negotiate a settlement, then I have achieved a novel resolution of a dispute.
Thank you, dear. No, George, you spoke. Mike.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go. Hooray.
Okay.
Yeah. The challenge is what can you do to improve things in underdeveloped or developing countries. I mean, everybody now's got one of these things which has a huge database of where you are any one time. What use is that? Well, I can press an app now to get a taxi. It used to be that taxis wandered around all the time trying to find a customer. Now you press an app and outside there's a taxi in 2 minutes. So, I mean, that's wonderful. And I have to say, the General spent all morning designing an app that causes, he presses the app and Mahala pops up. Failed to find the app, forces it to pop down again.
But in the military,
I am going to take the initiative to suggest that we read a book called Genghis Khan's Approach to Business.
Right.
It is, we call it Genghis Khan. Then the foreigners use another way. Genghis Khan's Approach to Business. It's about this chap, or it talks about an example of a tradesman who used the wheelbarrow approach. He knew that at a season in the winter, my mother probably wanted to exchange her old plates or her plates, so he was selling plates, and in the fruit season he was selling fruits, but he knew where to get it from Cyprus, near where we lived, from the field, so he sold it cheaper, etc. But I have a question actually, and the question is, what is the relationship between initiative and innovation? And initiative, I don't mean by taking the initiative lead, but is there a mental definition or a clever definition, measured by clever, whatever? I mean, the question is there a relation between initiative and what's the difference?
May I just respond to that?
Okay.
if you're a Latinist, you'll know initiative comes from initium, which means the beginning. And innovation comes from novatio, which means a novelty, a renewal. An initiative can simply be starting something, but it's not necessarily going to lead to an innovative result. That's the way I would distinguish.
Boniface, Cameroon and innovation. You, Boniface is a well-known diplomat.
Oh, so you want me to say something in the area of diplomacy? That's fine.
If that's your field, an innovation in diplomacy,
Okay,
a breakthrough in
I have a lot of them I can tell you. The way diplomacy is conducted nowadays is completely changed. If you take the example of negotiations, for example. Okay, there are new approaches, for example.
Come here and speak, but not too long, right? Because we need to go around.
I just want to quote a few examples.
No, one.
In diplomacy. I
And
think
by
the
the
area of
way,
negotiation.
Omar, Luke, and Stephen are going to check if that's innovation or not.
Okay. So in the area of negotiation, the use of conference diplomacy has completely changed in such a way that in future some of us it may not be necessary for you to leave your country and then come to Britain for negotiation. If you take the case of the UN, in New York, while we are discussing something in a particular room, our colleagues in Geneva are watching, so we are talking live. So that's one area. The area of visa also. I was a consul general at one time. Now you have we've got virtual visa. I'm traveling for Togo. I don't need to have a visa here. You just do it electronically. You can provide information about your passport and everything, and then you are issued a visa online.
Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka probably is doing innovation.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
What else want me to say more?
You say it around. What about Donald?
Yes, I think my insights are more related to organization, although I am by background a hard technologist. Quite a number of years ago, I was parachuted in to rescue a company that was failing. I won't say where. And the success of the company, indeed the survival of the company, was going to rely upon the completion of a certain project in a certain time. And when I got there, not only was the project delayed by the period we've been told, but in fact it was delayed by a much longer period that everybody was covering up. So going around talking for about a week or so, right to people at every level of the organization, I found one of the biggest single problems was the fact there were various groups, and in fact there were 17 different disciplines involved. They were not working together, and everybody was pointing their finger at everybody else as to what the fault was going to be. So we realized we were in a survivor situation, we had got to win. And the most important element in that was getting people pulling together. One of the insights I had that helped me in that was I'd heard somewhere about action taken on an American aircraft carrier, where they had something like similar problems. And they got around it by putting closed-circuit television screens all over the ship. And they showed night and day what was happening on the flight deck. Because the only reason a aircraft carrier exists is that it's able to launch aircraft, launch strikes, recover them again. So its raison d'etre is the operation of the flight deck. So they showed in every single part of the ship what was happening. And if you were just a laundryman washing the clothes, or if you were one of the mess men preparing food, or if you're the navigator, if you're the captain, if you're the weapons expert, if you're the maintenance man, you realize at all times that what's happening on that deck is dependent upon what I was doing. So we then took that particular insight, and the particular project I'm talking about was offshore. So in the course of the next 6 weeks, we brought every single member of staff out offshore to see what was happening. Right down to literally everybody, not down to, it's all. Right down to secretaries, clerks, serving people, etc. They came out and they saw this is what they were contributing to. It worked. I was told when I arrived it would take another year to complete that project. We did it in 7 months. And it only happened because everybody pulled together. That's it.
Excellent.
Same with the aircraft carrier.
Excellent. Very good. Chris, you need to go and come, right? Going and coming, I hear. Caleb, as a governor of central banks for so many years, any innovation in financial inclusion or anything as a central bank?
Well, maybe I can just talk briefly about what I'm trying to do at the moment to increase financial inclusion using some of these inventions that we've had in mobile technology. I know yesterday I heard you were talking about M-Pesa. Now we've looked at what is currently happening, and we feel that the existing technology will be taken a little bit further. Because in banking, the most important thing is that you must mobilize the savings. And then the banks do the intermediation so they can lend to those that want that can use the money profitably. But the current mobile money solutions that we have end up at just distributing, making more payments and so forth. You can send money, you can go and collect from a dealer and so forth. Now, even that business of having agents from where people can collect money still needs to be innovated a little bit further by having multiple channels. If somebody is just dealing with one mobile phone company, it creates problems because maybe that agent might be the only one with the capacity to pay out. But if they were handling transactions from other mobile companies, probably a lot more people can be served. That's just one part of the solution. But in terms of mobilization of savings, which is more important, there isn't much that is being done.
Innovation-wise.
Yes. So what we think, how we can innovate in that area is, first of all, by ensuring that it is possible for somebody to use the phone to actually transfer money to save it. Not just the way they've been doing, where people go and open accounts with mobile phone companies. In fact, that had also created a problem which banks are trying to address. You see, safety in the banking system is based on the fact that those who collect public money are well supervised. That's the function of central banks. Now, if you have new institutions collecting money like mobile phone companies that are not supervised and so forth, there is a possibility that some of that money will just disappear electronically, so to say. So you therefore need to marry these operations between banks as well as mobile phone companies, so that mobile phone companies don't start to store people's savings, but that the savings that they mobilize through whatever electronic channels they have are safely kept in commercial banks, which are well supervised. Now, that, in fact, when mobile phone companies started establishing accounts, commercial banks complained that now you are allowing people to do the same function as us, yet you don't provide the same quality of supervision. So the current project I'm working on, which I was drawn into by a certain young man who is innovative, involves bringing commercial banks together with the mobile phone companies, and then to use the mobile phone to transfer money into savings accounts controlled by the banks. Now, the beauty about this solution is that it enables very small savings to be made. Currently, most people with a small amount, like if you've got £1, you can't go to a bank and start worrying the bank tellers about depositing £1. Now, with the solution that we are looking at, it's possible that people will shave as they go. As they travel on the streets, if they've got an extra £1 on the phone, they can transfer it into a bank account. Now, looking at our situation in poor countries, where there are more people without money, but perhaps with a little bit of savings, £1 or so, if those little monies can be mobilized and put into bank accounts, then we can, so to say, from the bottom of the pyramid, be able to mobilize a lot of savings, and those then can be used for financial intermediation. It's a project that is still under implementation. We're also trying to get some technology from some US software developers, but we're also encountering a lot of problems because some some mobile phone companies don't want to work with banks. So sometimes when you talk to them, they will simply say, we are not ready. So let me leave it at that.
We thought you need to speak a bit longer about the innovation, one because it's valuable, but also because financial inclusion wasn't quite well represented yesterday. We were all kind of floating around, but the Deputy Prime Minister helped us. So, okay, in railways, I'm going to go around very quickly. Railways.
Yeah, in the railways, somebody mentioned that in transportation we haven't moved much in innovation. That's true. We're still using the 18th century technologies. For example, but we had some strides in the past. For example, the street lights came from the railways because the people were running the railways for the train to pass. You have to lift flags. A green flag, then the train will pass. A red flag, it will stop. And then the employees say that this thing is tedious. Can management come up with something that can better? So that's how then the robot or the street light was introduced through the railways. But now the main one is through accidents. We have come out with called OPC, on board computers. This one, for example, myself as a CEO in the railway, I had interaction with spouses because with the problems with accidents. Then I'll tell them how trains move and how the drivers, their husbands or the wives, whatever, whoever was the driver, that we still have these problems while we call it a vigilante, so that we are vigilant of what we are doing. So what happens is that every so often, within a second, you have to touch a vigilante machine that shows that we are not sleeping. So what happens is that even if these drivers were sleeping, they still touched things. I got this from the spouses that these people, when we sleep with them, they touch us all the time. So it doesn't matter whether they are looking. So we say that okay, we should go ahead with this OBC, where the control will be in such a way that when the train is moving, to avoid collisions, the train should stop without any control. And if the driver is speeding, the train should also stop, and you cannot start the train before he gets somebody to tell that now you can have the train. So, but the easiest thing is to just tell the person that you're not, we are already fired. So it does help. So another one that we're working on now is just the last one, but it's also related to accidents. It's the drinking and driving. In the States, actually, they've got a law on that. I implemented it in the railway in Swaziland. For every driver that goes to the train, we take alcohol test. You can't go to the train without alcohol testing. But on the way, we're not controlling that. So we're looking for a system within the train which can notice that this person is drunk.
Nutala, as a permanent secretary, she has to manage, You have to do this. Lekoma, this oil waste or whatever, that's not an innovation, you put your money into it. Can you say it quick?
No.
Please, I will tell you about it. Hank and I will visit it. Hank, do you want to talk about this innovation?
We visited Lokoma's factory in Botswana, and there were two innovations. Where we come from, there's a lot of sun, and when he had this metal shed of corrugated iron, and when you touch the roof, it's cool, even though the sun is shining. And there was a layer of nano paint which just reflected the sun. So that was the first innovation.
We can tell you about it if you want it.
The second one, at that stage, the shed was still not populated, but there was lots of equipment standing outside. And in that, and it's a recycled plant which takes old oil and recycles it
Oil
into
which is wasted
which
oil,
can be used.
mining and all the rest of it. So well done to Lekoma. Yeah. Margaret, social innovation, a quick one. You talked to us so many.
Not now.
Okay, Anta. A quick one. In the lab. Not quite. Political advisor in Lesotho, there must have been some innovation for you to win the elections. Probably was the coalition itself, wasn't it? Come, tell us, because that's different.
No, thank you. I agree with Henry. I think the subject has been given sufficient time, and that maybe we should move on with something else.
No, but we don't have a political, political innovation as an example. So we need to make a.
I'm afraid I can't think of anything
You can't think of
fast
anything.
enough.
Okay. What about John?
Well, I can, but it's still for addressing. One is, which was raised earlier about LED technology.
LED technology.
Particularly LED technology being used for lighting. And the take-up has been quite remarkable, really, certainly in Australia. Most of the councils now are using lighting LED technology tied in with solar panels for use in rural areas and so on. But there's been some trials done by the Sydney City Council, Perth Council, and so on. And the company I do a lot of work with, their production now is switching into LED technology, and I would think probably 60% of our production now is in that area, whereas 40% now is in the old technology, which is lamps and luminaires.
Is this an Australian or
No,
original business? Or?
No, it's there are two issues to this, because the old technology, which is basically lamp technology, comes from Europe and America, and there are some lamp manufacturers in China. But the new technology has been taken up by Mitsubishi, Toshiba, and another Japanese company. So it's affecting production for lamps everywhere, but it's also being promoting the major Japanese manufacturers in this technology. So it's 60-40 now. 2 years ago it was probably less than 10% of our production, and our market segment in Australia is about 110 million Aussie dollars, if you like. So about 16 million of that is going into
very different. Long course. We have one quick one. We have another 3 or 4, and then we finish.
Innovation is at the time when it's on the market and it's working. So mine is a pre-innovation, as Oma would
Oma will tell you that's what it is.
The quality inclusion program, Mahela, that I proposed to you some time ago.
Yes.
Where we have a knowledge base about quality and standards and all that, which is very expensive for countries to buy on their own. So you get donation, you get cooperating partners, educating a group of people in the country. Like you have a pool of quality and standards experts in Swaziland, which we can have in a group. And then there's a group down there that needs to know that. So we don't have to send everyone to Germany or to Sweden or to anywhere. We use this pool of people to transfer the knowledge to those people, so that the knowledge is nationalized, grows, and it is given to the people that actually need to use it.
It's incredible that this doesn't happen.
So it's a pre-innovation, which for each venue to succeed as an innovation needs some sort of philanthropy atmosphere in this group, because people then tend to want to sell their knowledge, yet at a national level you can just give it for free for the good of your people.
Alan, you think that's a good one? Or you have one?
A simple one to illustrate how quality and standards contribute to
the dissemination of innovation. The pressure cooker. Pressure cooker is used by many households to save time, save energy, and keep the minerals and vitamins in what you cook, because you cook through pressure. Well, this appliance could never have been used without safety standards, without interoperability. So that's a universal innovation, very simple. Another one, which is the result of a process in India, and you may expand on that, it's called a Trutacool. The Trutacool in Hindi, I think, means little cooling. And it's a cooling device. Maybe my pronunciation is not very good, but it was the result of a policy that they have in India to stimulate grassroots innovation. And it's a cooler that can be used by a family in rural areas where the problem of cooling is particularly important for keeping milk, keeping vegetable, and so on. And it's a very inexpensive way of having a cooler. It costs about $50. It uses a 12-volt battery, which can be charged with a solar panel. And there are millions of them in India, and I would expect that this is going to gain the world. And the need was to invent something cheaper than a refrigerator, and also with the autonomy of a battery charged by the sun. So these are two innovations. The second is a result of a process and a policy for innovation in India.
Joe, in music of sonnet.
There's so many things to say about this.
No, an innovation.
Innovation.
You can still sing.
There are many. For example, well, one of the things that come to mind since you mentioned the sonnets. The fact is, the sonnet is an old form of poetry. A sonnet is a poem in 14 lines, 3 quatrains and a couplet, that is 14 lines. So this is a format that was used by Shakespeare even in Italy before Shakespeare. But today nobody uses the sonnet, and that I got the idea of writing sonnets. I have been writing hundreds of them. Why? Because the idea is people, when you talk of poetry, are not interested. Most people are not interested in poetry, they are not a dreamer. And then it occurred to me that to reach out to the people, the thing is to concentrate an idea in these 14 lines, and it's so much easier to read this. Well, in the past, sonnets were written only to express love, but I use it to express philosophy, all sorts of things. All sorts of things on a number of subjects, over suicide bombers, Assange, on all sorts of subjects. Snowden I've written. I have all of them, but I won't argue with you with this now.
Later.
Yeah, I won't. But the point is, the innovation was to use this for the first time. But there was somebody who did it before me, the one who got a prize. He wrote a whole novel in a series of, I think it was, what's the name of this writer? The cover of the book has a picture of the bridge in the States. He's an Indian teacher of English. Anyway, this is the thing I've been doing. Now, so I've been writing, I'm the one, I don't know many people write using sonnets, and I use it, it's so good, it's such a good instrument. For example, I've been writing on the Diwali. When I wrote the Diwali, I've written woman, so it's short, it's a concentrated sort of presentation. And this, as I can tell you, have been receiving lots of responses from all over the world saying that they like the song. Now, the other thing, another innovation which I like, I think it's important to say. All this is in the context. When you have innovations, when you have challenges, and the innovation is a response, I'm going to be with it. So it's a question of challenge and response. And then also there is this question of a very important thing which we seem to ignore is that we must always put things in a context, in the time and place, because what is an innovation here may not be an innovation in another country or in another time. So we have to put in context. And the lucky thing that we coming from developing countries, we don't have to reinvent the wheel very often as has been done elsewhere, so we can copy, improve, and adjust for our own circumstances.
Yes.
Yes. So this is the and then there was also
The other aspect of innovation for destruction, you know, for example, when men settled down and started tilling the field, hoarding products, and then you have predators coming and then fighting and all that. So you have all sorts of innovation, can be good or bad. Now I won't be longer than this. Just one innovation I brought to the APRM I joined recently. The APRM, the African Peer Mechanism Review of the African Union, is a mechanism that allows you to go to different countries and try to find all the facts and figures about a particular country and see what are the development plans, whether they're fighting poverty, they are fighting corruption, whether they're trying to promote the democracy. So when you go to a place, normally you set up a national commission for good governance. And when I looked at the list, I found, of course, you have all the stakeholders in the economic life of the country, everybody. And then it occurred to me there's someone, a category missing. I said, why don't you also invite poets? So for the first time, when I went to Chad, which is the country assigned to me, yes, Chad. So when we set up this commission, so I said, well, I want to have a poet, some poets, some writers. He said, why? I said to them, because the poets and the writers are the soul of a nation. They understand from inside, not just the economics, the finance and all that, but they are. So this was an innovation. Henceforth at APRM, you have dreamers, like poets, in the commission. Thank you.
A military one. Don't take us to be or to no.
Yes,
a military.
yes.
It could be organized. Yeah.
When you talk about war, everybody worries. But I've been using it for mind change to explain war as willing, able, and ready to do something new. And innovations in war are every day. Among the 11 world innovations that changed the society was the domestication of the horse. They didn't talk about the domestication of the cow, but about the horse. Why? Because it became a military, it was used for military organization. Now, all the innovations you are talking about are for what purpose? And they can only become innovations once they have an effect in human organization. And human organization is best tested in the military. The military, because for them they have you have to decide in a very short time between life and death. Yes, that's why we are always regimenting every day. The first innovation was regiment every person to know what is on the right and what is his right and what is his left. So they all fire in one direction, which they regiment, instead of different directions. But what I wanted to say is that everything has been used in war. The bees we are talking about were used in the Vietnam War. The cell, now going to technology, the science of the cell is what has led to nuclear warfare. How the human behaves from the command post at the headquarters, talking about orders, somebody was talking about the orders and command. It studies what nature or God's design is and then uses it. When you put an aircraft out, they design an anti-aircraft. When you spend billions of shillings on defense, you must use how to spend less and have the same effect. Now, our experience of using 27 guns to defeat an established armed and foreign supported nation was on an everyday analysis on what is the daily innovation that will make the opponent weak. Now, much of it did not have to be our own action. Much of it was actually making the enemy make mistakes. Make him so many mistakes that he collapses on himself. And that's all you have to do. Just keep clicking him, and he runs around, and you dodge him when you must, and hit him when you should, or when you choose. So every day in life, to me, is a time and a chance for innovation, except the comfort zones are the dangers.
Yeah.
When people are comfortable, that's when they don't think of how to solve their problems. They think the world, everything is at home, and that's why inevitably we must have the opposites. We must have the negative people. If there are no thieves, you will not improvise to deal with thieves. And God's design is that there must be both for us to survive. If you want rich people, you must have poor people. To have poor people, you must have rich people, and they all live together. So, in my summary of innovation, is that really there are daily opportunities for each of us to innovate using what we have and which is around us. What Smart Partnership has done as the best innovation to me is to see how to organize this whole world towards a smarter globe. And that brings in everything, from the negative to the positives, and we have to keep that balance but have a middle way of these two. What is the best innovation for smart living? And how can we do it? And as I said, luck and chance depend on discipline and hard work. How much you put in. These tools and computers and innovations are human generated. You put in rubbish, you get out rubbish. A supercomputer.
You never know. You may get something you don't recognize.
Or you might even get something you don't expect.
You don't know what it is.
You could get out worse than even the rubbish you hope you get out. But simple God's design is that what we eat goes through our system and comes out in different forms, in blood, in whatever, and all other forms. And there is a chance at every stage. There is a chance before you eat, chance when you eat, chance while you eat, chance when you push out. And it's all an area for innovation. And
thank you, as usual. I think probably we've done, Deputy Prime Minister, I think we've done enough justice to innovation to convince you that it's as vague as when we started. But it comes from different perspectives. And probably, Stephen, what did you think about what you heard? Luke and Omar, and then Deputy Prime Minister, and we have enough for future directions from here. What did you think, what you heard? Are you convinced that it's as vague as you told us at the beginning, or you got a bit more clear?
Innovation in itself, I think, is still very vague, and it has to be vague. That's the point of it. We have to continuously search for it. And I think at the same time we got a lot of interesting ideas, recipes, on examples on how it could work. And I think on the one hand we can learn from that, and then on the other we still need to develop the vision that brings people to do their own. And I think one very important aspect is really it's not necessarily a matter of a lot of money, which we just have heard. It's really the matter of people wanting to change something that you can do in your own environment. So I thought it was very inspiring, and very glad I was here.
And thank you very much for this abstract once again. Thank you very much. Look.
Well, we've heard many interesting examples of innovation. I think all of them qualified. I mean, maybe just one more thought to add on top of that, and that's who benefits from innovation. It's not simply enough that it happens. Most innovations have, in the economic jargon, both private and social benefits, and it's especially making sure that the ones happen that give the wider social benefit. That's the role of governments to promote.
Thank you. Omar.
I want to be innovative, I will keep quiet.
Dr. Michaela, I want this also to be dramatic, to be quiet. but since the beginning of our discussions, I had a question. Because, but as we went on, the question became maybe something that I have to put in a comment. I really had a question as to whether an ordinary person like me will understand what innovation means. But I thought I should not put that question now. Like my friend Dr. Omar there,
I wanted to turn it into a comment. Maybe as we go on, the military men have put it very clearly, but as we go on, because the movement needs to get down to everybody, those who understand the practicality of innovations and those who may not understand the practicality of innovation. Maybe we have to move on looking at drawing a distinction between innovation in terms of being creatively to do things much better, and innovation in terms of creating instruments that you can use in order to earn a livelihood or to use for economic development. Because when we were talking, I realized apparently one of our village person who was telling me a story, I didn't understand that is creativity, because in locally we don't have a way of saving beans without being infected by a very small insect that you don't see. And in some of our local language, they say, what eats the beans is within the beans. Why do they say that? Because no matter how you keep these beans, where you keep these beans, it still gets its way in there. Now they say what eats the beans is in the beans. Now, and somebody was telling me a story that, no, there is a way of keeping the beans. I said, how do you do it? No. You just make clay in the ground and you put in some sort of ash and you put the beans there and you seal it. And you can keep it for years. I was thinking about that, and I said, apparently that is an innovation, but we didn't know. We didn't know. But really, my last word is, as we go on, let's look at innovation in terms of being using methods to do things better, and innovation in terms of creating instruments, including planes, that you can use to do things. But let's do things of economic nature, not of destructive nature. So, as a layman, I could not really get it. It took me long to understand what we are talking about. Yes, thank you very much, Michael.
I think if these are not future directions, I don't know what else could be better than this. Thank you very much. So there was future directions from all smart partners, and everybody contributed to it. And the last innovation.
The good thing and the bad things of innovation.
Okay, you.
Teleconference, a very good thing. You don't have to travel, you are busy, you are at home, and many more people take part. The bad thing, you don't have the opportunity to take your secretary with you.
So he's going back to secretary. He's now going back to his second.
Yes, yes, I think we are somewhere. Oh, okay. Thank you. No, no, no. Then it is not smart partnership.
Thank you.